Interview starten? I always say a happy tune in the morning makes the day starting probably better. So I see you are living between an ananas and a zebra. Pineapple, that's the right name. So maybe you want just to have a sip from your coffee, lean back for a second, and enjoy a little song that I would like to dedicate to you and to all people listening to us. All the world is full of love and sunshine, and the skies are up above and fair. This is a song for happy people from everywhere. This is a song for happy people from everywhere. I'm so nervous and excited getting to know you because, nosy as I am, I was reading your CV and I found out that you are not only an oncologist and a medical doctor, you are also a director, and not enough of that. You studied biology, you have a degree in arts, and you did even studies of ancient Mediterranean cultures, old
That's right.
Mediterranean cultures. And I know from all your honors and awards, and that you are Scottish, but you are also an honored Texan man, and you work in Utah, and I'm sure there's so much more to say about you. But my alter ego, Christina, told me not to talk too much. So I have to take off my hat, put my clown nose down, get in shape. My name is Christina Matuella. I live in Austria and I work for more than 25 years for the wonderful organization Red Noses International. I work in Austria, so my organization is Red Noses Austria, and I do this job for more than 25 years. I dedicated my life to this job and to this profession and to the arts, and especially to the clowning, which has a very deep philosophy, and I hope it does not get too private, telling the people who are listening to us that we both share something. We both know the hospital from two sides, being a patient and working in hospital, of course, on very different levels. You're a doctor, I'm a clown doctor, but we both also had cancer. I had breast cancer. It's a long time ago, and as far as I can say, it changed my life completely. And with the distance, I must say it is a big gift, because I'm standing more grounded, more secure, and more powerful in this world.
And what a delight, Christina. This is already, I can tell, going to be the most memorable Zoom call of the year. A lot of us have sort of made jokes about what we lose with telehealth and telemedicine, but this is absolutely wonderful. What a treat. So you've already mentioned the fact that I'm not a Native American. I am originally from Scotland, and that's actually kind of my origin story. So I know a lot of the thread of today is going to be humor, but also I think tinged with the seriousness and gravity of cancer and medicine. So what happened in my family is we were moving to America, and one of the requirements, which makes sense from a public health perspective, is every immigrant has to get a chest x-ray. And what they're really trying to exclude there is tuberculosis and other communicable disease. So the message that we got about my father's x-ray at the time he was 42 and seemingly in good health was sort of a good news, bad news situation. The good news was no TB. The bad news is there was a tumor, actually almost exactly the size of a pineapple, occupying his right lung. And so as soon as we got to the United States, we had to address that. And that turned out to be a very rare and aggressive form of cancer that unfortunately claimed his life in his 40s when I was still in secondary school. So that was sort of my interest in oncology, was unfortunately sparked by tragedy very close to me. And then the other part of the story is I was literally starting my training in cancer, so my oncology fellowship here in the United States, when I realized that actually I had the same condition. So his physicians, my father's physicians, hadn't really had enough clues about our family to realize this was hereditary. And then when I started to get sick, I realized that there was just enough features of my health and my late father's, that were the same, that there must be actually a hereditary link. And so that's how I diagnosed myself with a tumor syndrome. Like you, I think the experience of being a patient has certainly colored my perspective. I think it gives us empathy. And I think every person that encounters a patient with cancer, I think we can all have sympathy. But I think empathy is, in a very strange way, a special gift. The experience of having gone through adversity that you can share with someone else, that really is a very special, almost sacred connection. And as we're discussing today, you can see the lighter parts of that, but also the more serious parts. So I have to ask, so a lot of people, and I'm just being very honest, aren't familiar with the phrase clown doctor. So can you elaborate on that, especially the doctoring part?
Yeah, it's the doctoring part is probably the part that we took over from America. Because, all this clown idea started in the Big Apple Circus with Michael Christensen, and the clowns from America brought the idea to Austria, where Monica Chuln, our CEO, took it over, and our artistic director, Giora Seliga, found the first clowns doing it. And when we really started in the 90s with a bunch of clowns, and clowning was at this time not even something really many people knew, because you can probably imagine when you hear the word clown, you think of this white and red face, big shoes, and it's absolutely not how we see the clown, because the philosophy of clowning goes so deep and reaches all societies in all ages of time. And it was always important that there is a character that shows that shows the opposite of what was common, and gives probably a mirror to what is not working so well. So we see clown much more as a very human thing. And I think one great thing, and that's what I really can say with all my experience, one very important thing of being a clown is that the clown never loses its hope. Like in every society, the clown was on the lowest part, like he was not important, but he has this desire of being in the spotlight, being out there, being with people, being with humans. And he tries and he fails at the same time, but he doesn't lose his inspiration, and he tries. And if the circus director throws him out, he comes from the other side. And I think this is something that works so well when we work in hospital, because we don't try to reach people from the intellectual part. We don't talk about all these things, but if they are inside of you, if this philosophy is part of your life, then you can really enchant the moment sometimes, and you connect on a very deep unconscious level sometimes. And I think in every minute where you laugh or where we share emotions, you can't be sad at the same time. And sometimes it's also a sad emotion that we share. So the second wonderful thing of a clown is he lives in the moment. Yes. He forgets about the past, and he does not see the future. So we call our art very often like the art of connecting with each other.
Yes.
And we had a talk to the staff before, to a nurse, that we just know what we have to take care of, or what we need to know. And that's important, but it's important to forget it in the moment where we knock on the door, we open. It's very important for us that our visits are voluntary, that no one is forced to face a clown, because there are, of course, sometimes moments and minutes where it doesn't probably fit. And what is the mood? How far can we come? So it's a very sensitive thing. Yes. And the great thing with our umbrella organization, Red Noses International, is that they are responsible for the education of the clowns and also for the development of our art business. And the young clowns, they really go through a long time of training.
You know, there's so much of what you said there resonated with me. I'm actually beginning to think oncologists should be required to train as clowns, because, you know, for all the science and even the technology around medicine, I actually think, and this is speaking, I think, almost exactly what you said, that the core encounter remains between two people. It's almost a sacred space. So my father was a minister, but I've actually come to view what I do in medicine almost as a form of pastoral care. And again, when you strip away all the sort of fancy context, it's, again, just two people talking to one another and connecting. And the other thing you said I thought was so beautiful is I've actually said almost exactly the same thing to my patients about hope. And the fact that you symbolize, you know, an undying hope is so wonderful, because, you know, when people come to me, naturally, their first really instinctive hope is for cure. But the sad truth, and we all know this about cancer, is not all cancer is curable. So when I have to tell the patient, and I always owe them my honesty, as hard as it might be to hear the truth, if I tell them they can't be cured, then the hope shifts to control. So how long can we hope to stabilize the disease, prolong longevity within reason, while preserving quality of life? And then lastly, and in fact, this hope has been present the whole time, there's the hope for comfort. So even if I can tell that someone is terminal, and the American definition of that, and it may vary in Europe, is someone that has fewer than 6 months to live by our best estimates, which are sometimes wrong. It's wonderful when they're wrong, actually. You know, then we still want to, you know, give that person dignity, give them control of their pain, give them the opportunity to build a legacy that they can leave for their loved ones and their family. Right? So everything you said, and it's so funny because we do obviously different things. There's so much overlap here in the sense of presence with another person, and the sense of keeping the flame of hope burning. That's just absolutely beautiful. So I have to ask, what does your work look like? You already mentioned that when you're in the hospital, you have to be sensitive and get the clinical sort of milieu, if you will, from the staff there. But kind of walk me through your workday.
So actually, we have quite a good schedule. We know with whom we work and when we work and which departments we are going to visit during this day. And as every good day starts with a coffee, we in the cafeteria, and we have because we mostly work in pairs. So yes. In a duo, we have also programs where we work alone, which is very interesting because we guide children who are in the oncology to painful treatments, to be yes. on their side. So this is very emotional and very great. But a regular work day is when we work in pairs. So we have our coffee, we overtalk and let the everyday go, and then we get the key from the dressing room and walk down to the basement. And then some sort of miracle happens already, because when you put your everyday clothes away and you put your costumes on and you meet in the bathroom where we do our makeup, and then we tune the instrument, because music, I think, is a very important tool. And then yes. we have our little bags with some tricks or tools, or bubbles are a miracle thing. And as soon as we open the door, you are in this clown energy, and we really try to stay in the character, which is of course created by all the hidden and sometimes not so comfortable things we know about ourselves. Because in our clown education, I know meanwhile, and I'm so thankful for this, because I was not a very self-confident young woman. I always thought I'm too fat and I'm not sporty enough and this and that. But your weak or so-called weak things, or what we learn to hide in our society, they become the strengths of the clown. And I know so many women or grown-ups who are so happy when I'm talking about because my costume is always a little bit too tight, and this is so playful. So this is a connection to some sort of people, and the great thing, whom are you meeting in the basement, is always the cleaning stuff. So this is the people with the best mood ever in hospital. They sit on their cleaning cars or whatever, and they are so open-minded. Sometimes they ask for a red nose, or we sing a song together, and we grab someone who gives us 10 minutes, and we just write down some notes if necessary. And what I really know, and which is so important, because when I was in hospital as a cancer patient, I really missed a lot of things. And unfortunately, I didn't have to use a doctor because I felt lost. I felt very often not being seen as a human with a name. I was the number 3 on the right side sometimes. And I found out what an enormous difference if someone knows your name, or if a nurse comes to her shift and she says, my name is, and I will work now for the next 3 days. Then there is a connection already. And it's so little tiny things. So I try to know the name of the patient. I also let them know that they feel safe. Who am I? So,
Christina, we have so much in common, and you're right that in medicine, and frankly, oncologists may be the most guilty of this. There is so much data, so much quantitative information about that person, and in cancer about their tumor, that we do sometimes lose sight of the person. And in terms of the art of medicine, this is just uncanny what you're saying about sort of the connections you make in the hospital. I was just explaining to one of our trainees yesterday that a trick of the trade, and that sounds maybe more exploitative than it ought to be, is if you walk into the hospital room, don't stand over the patient. Take the time, sit down next to them, quite literally and figuratively get on their level. And there's a fascinating study that shows if you do that, you can spend exactly the same amount of time in the room, but the patient will perceive that you've been there much, much longer. And what you were saying about your own experience in the hospital, I had wonderful doctors, but I also remember when they would come, especially as a team, and sort of loom over me, you feel so vulnerable there in the bed. And there really is almost like this, yeah, exactly. And there's just almost like a 2-tier system where they are literally above you. And so when someone sits down with you, it is so powerful.
I think this is so important because, as you said, and it was one of my questions, when you lie in bed and they all stand circled around you and speak in their terminology, you don't even dare to open your mouth. It's just like, and you get scared even more. And I know, like, a little change, and I experienced this so much. Like, if a doctor takes time, or he shows you sometimes the screen and explains, or takes you serious. And fortunately, I also had the doctor who did the operation on me. I had a very good feeling with her, and it was so interesting that 20 years later, because she retired, and I had the honor to just meet her when I have my yearly checkup, and she told me that she had many question marks herself when I was her patient, because I was young, and it was not so easy for her, and what to tell me.
What I wanted to tell you is actually a quote from my father that I think will resonate with you. So again, this is in the book that he wrote and that was published posthumously, and it's one of my favorite quotes. So he said, "The crisis of cancer affords us the opportunity now, however brief or lengthy, to discard the trivial and the shallow, and to fill every moment in relationship with meaning, intensity, and value." Now, those are hard words to live by, but they're really my credo, and I try to take that into my personal and professional life, both being a patient and a physician. And the other thing I wanted to say in regard to that wonderful long-term encounter you have with your specialist, where she admitted that the question marks, that's a real struggle actually as an oncologist. On the one hand, you want to instill confidence in your patient, so you don't want to look like you're completely uncertain about what to do. But on the other hand, this is a constantly humbling field in ways both good and bad. Just yesterday in clinic, I saw a woman who, frankly, 3 months ago was on death's door, and She was Catholic, and they were considering the last rites. And now, yesterday, she walked into my clinic, and she looks absolutely incredible, back to her old self. And I don't know what intervention or interventions brought her from the precipice of death back into the full bloom of life. I know it wasn't me. Certainly wasn't me entirely. There was something else going on. And so that's humbling. It's also humbling when you think someone is going to do really well, and then unfortunately they do much, much worse than you prognosticated. And I cite statistics to my patients all the time just to give them a number to hold on to. There's two dangers in that, one of which is the number becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I've had some people, if you tell them, say the average survival is 2 years, they sort of somehow internalize that, and they live out the 2 years and sometimes make decisions that deliberately or not truncate their life and make it 2 years long. And the other thing is, if you're talking about an average on a bell curve distribution, that means half the people are on the far side of the number and half the people, unfortunately, are on the shorter end. And so they do worse than that average number that you cited to them. So, and again, I'm a human being. I'm a patient physician. I always live on the front part of that hyphenate. And I really try to stress the fact that I'm a person. And oncologists, believe it or not, are human beings. And as a little secret, most of us actually have a really good sense of humor, because as you might imagine, if you didn't, the emotional weight of this field is just going to bring you down. So you have to have some sort of ballast to bring you back up. In my case, I'm also extremely fortunate. I have a wonderful wife who's also a physician. She supports me. My children support me. And then finally, and I suspect you'll feel this too, my patients are an enormous sense of inspiration to me, because there's not a day I come to work that someone else in front of me isn't having a much worse day than me, you know, and that constantly reminds me just to reorient and realize how lucky I am. So I'll close, Christina, by asking you, if there's one thing that you think doctors and oncologists in particular should incorporate into their practice from what you've learned, what would that be?
I'm so happy that I had the chance to read a little bit about your life, and I read some articles that you wrote. So I couldn't but writing down a sentence that you said, Dr. Lewis. So my advice for doctors, because you said, I have learned this one undeniable truth. For all the studied intellect of doctors and the incredible array of diagnostic testing by which they can refine their hypothesis, there is no force in medicine more positive and powerful than the self-advocating patient. So I think no one can say it better and more profound and more true than you. So my advice to doctors actually would be, take Dr. Lewis as a role model, because I really think you combine spirit, knowledge, humor, and a sense of humanity that every friend, every colleague, and every patient just could wish for. So actually, my advice is for you. And the first part of this answer is, I really hope very much that you never lose your spirit that you share with all the people you work with. And because I think you're a person like this, I know you are very able to look for the little miracles in everyday life. And there is a saying from Roald Dahl. He says, the most perfect miracles are sometimes hidden in the most unlikely places. So those who don't believe in miracles will never find it. So that's a wish for me and all doctors. Never lose this spirit of looking into miracles. And
I love that, Christina. Yeah, we say you don't make a diagnosis unless you think of a diagnosis. I guess you don't see miracles unless you look for them.
And the third advice, because, I had to be so much concentrated sometimes to listen to you, because you're a very fast talker. So I don't know if you are a fast person in your life, in your everyday life as well. So I have a very little advice to you. Slow down, you move too fast. You gotta make the morning last, just kicking down the cobblestones. looking for fun and feel groovy, but also Dr. Lewis, because you're a funny person, and I'm so glad that you also see that humor is helping in all situations of life.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
ever get the chance to invite some good healthcare clowns, grab them and invite them to come into your hospital to empower the people, not only the patients, the whole system in hospital, to make these, I don't know how to say, these sunny side up moments possible. So that would be a big wish for you.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well.
I think our mutual message is that there's always hope. And even in moments of darkness, you have to look for the light.